Good afternoon. This is Sam Vaughn for Sam Sports Report. For the NFC East, goes as followed with links. Eagles 13-4, 14-3. Here's that link. Cowboys 12-5, 11-5. Here's that link. Giants 9-8. Here's that link. Washington 8-9. Here's that link. Big Ten teams finishing in the playoffs or in the 11-1. Michigan goes to the playoffs at 10.5 is in line. Ohio round up to 10. Let's go over the Big Ten. Michigan 11. Big games. Penn State and Ohio State. The line is 10.5. Ohio State 10 or 11. 10-2 games to watch. Penn State at Wisconsin. Ohio State. Penn State, Michigan. 9-3 and 11-1 or 10-2. 10-2 is my prediction. Wisconsin 8-4. Ohio State at Purdue and home to Haste and at Illinois. Iowa at Illinois. Iowa State at Penn State. Wisconsin, Nebraska. Iowa 8-4. Maryland 8-4. Illinois, Penn State, Nebraska, and Rutgers. For Illinois, finishing at 7-5. Kansas at Nebraska and Minnesota. Also Indiana, Iowa, at Michigan, Minnesota, and at Nebraska. Penn State, Indiana, Purdue, 7-5. Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, Ohio State. Penn State, 7-6. Maryland, Wisconsin, Iowa. Minnesota, 6-6. Nebraska at Purdue, North Carolina, Wisconsin. Maryland 6-6, Illinois, Rutgers, Michigan State, Ohio, Penn State, Nebraska, Michigan. Nebraska 6-6 at Michigan State, at Ohio State, at Nebraska, at Michigan. Penn, Rutgers 5-7, Indiana, Iowa, Maryland, Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State, at Wisconsin. Michigan State, Washington, Iowa, Michigan, at Minnesota, at Ohio State, Penn State. Indiana, 3-9. Illinois, Ohio State, Maryland, at Michigan State, Penn State, Wisconsin, Michigan, at Purdue. I don't know much about the Big Ten, because that's what I know about the Big Ten and the prediction standings. Kansas City, Missouri, Ridley, Charles Omenihu is suspended, and Chris Jones is contract holding out. Provide flexibility. The Kansas City Chiefs have their eyes on the NFL roster cut-down deadline of Tuesday. The Chiefs can move on to Omenihu to reserve the suspended and Jones on the unable to report list. Part of the timing would be gives Veach and the coach read options when constructioning the initial 33. Ahead of September 7th would be the season opener against the Detroit Lions at GAH Field. A game will be played on NBC. There's a little bit much to be imbalanced on the offensive side in the draft roster prediction, but injuries on Kadarius Toney and Nick Allen most notably. Chiefs will move from Jones if he hasn't reported to reserve and didn't report list if he shows up. It would say a week later. Kansas City would likely have to apply for a 2-game roster exemption, during which the Kansas City Chiefs can carry Jones without using a roster spot. And under this rule, Jones doesn't report by Tuesday. The Chiefs can choose or not to pay Jones while using the exemption on him. Once he is activated, obviously, they will have to pay him. That means Kansas City can hold out Jones for 2 games to prepare without him. Games it'd be entitled to keep those 2 game checks, which would add up to 2.2, and add money to Jones, who's using on-field, ensure Jones would probably be asked to the Chiefs not to do an exchange for his reporting, but another point to team. Will Chris Jones report? The negotiation may seem unlikely that the sides have been statement for weeks, with Aaron Donald $31.7 million average value, wreaking havoc. The negotiation, I believe, want to give him a marketable deal based on where with Jeffrey Simmons, $23.5 million, Quentin Williams, $24 million. This is the summer. Jones believes the Donald outlier deal is what should be paid, so the sizable gap, more than $7 million from one number. Another left Jones and the team at an impasse. I also don't think whatever Nick Bosa gets in San Francisco is going to change to either player.
Ryan Poles reaching out to the Chiefs and inquiring the report of Ryan Poles reaching out to the Chiefs, inquiring about Chris Jones, other than, hey, Brett, hope your weekend's going well. Look, man, due diligence.
We got some cap space.
What's the deal with we got some draft picks. We got an extra from Carolina. You know, if the draft order were set the same as it was last year, our draft picks would be the number 10, the number 12, and number 44 in the 2024 draft. That's if Carolina ends up with the number 10 pick again. They got a quarterback. They, sold off some other pieces to get that quarterback. Maybe they're even higher. We might suck. Maybe we got 2 top 10 picks next year. And that means that number 44 pick would even be higher if we're drafting higher than 12.
It's still, to me, the big hurdle is the fact that trading Chris Jones right now would undeniably and demonstrably hurt you in 2023. As bad as almost anything could hurt your team, unless you're able to make that swap with a team that has a player in return that you think is going to bring any amount of respite from losing Chris Jones. Yeah. Just a 3-tech who is a starting caliber 3-tech. Still a tremendous downgrade from the best interior defensive lineman in football, but someone who could be there for 17 games and play decent ball. I would be a little bit surprised if the Chiefs weren't taking all those phone calls throughout this process.
Also trades: Deion Bush, Dayton and Shelton, Austin Ryder, Amir Smith-Schuster was traded to the Carolina Panthers. Chris Jones was unable to report. No movement on Jones' deal. $7.5 million. If he skips 7 regular season games, he will lose $2 million available in fines. Jones will count towards the 53-man roster. His $19.5 base salary will not count towards the salary cap as long as he's not reported to the Chiefs. The Chiefs also announced they released Kendall Blanton and a bunch of defensive players. Chiefs do a Raiders trade with inside the AFC West. That is very uncommon trade. With Chris Jones holding out, the Chiefs trade 6th-round pick. Las Vegas Raiders defensive tackle Neil Farewell. Other surprise: Derek Prince gets cut. Shane Brussell gets cut. Chris Aduka gets cut. Daniel Wise from the University of Kansas. Nick Algrady gets cut. For the Bears, P.J. Walker and Nathan Peterman is a battle for quarterback number 2 in Chicago. Reserve injured Isaiah Ford and Tristan Eburn. That's Sam Vaughn Sports. This is Sam Vaughn for Sam Sports Report.